Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Welcome into the Buccateers podcast. It's our second live show ever. Our first was the previous night before the Super Bowl. We had special guest Anthony Gator. We had Mike Martinez from Big Rican on Sports, and we had a couple of the crew members, Killa Huncho, called in as well. Tonight we have a fun show planned. We got the crew on deck, and we got Bucko the Bruce, our fifth member of the crew, joining soon. But for now, we have 4 out of the 5. Bucko will be brought in whenever he decides to join. We got a bittersweet show. Sadly, this offseason, we have faced some tragedies. It's been terrible, and we've seen some great members of the Buccaneers community gone too soon. We lost another great one today. Before we really dig into our show, and we will talk about it to wrap up the show as a little tribute, but I just want to bring up we lost a great one today. Geno Hayes, former Buccaneers linebacker, former Jaguars linebacker, former Chicago Bears linebacker, and former Florida State linebacker, lost his life at the age of 33 today. He was placed in hospice a couple days ago. He sadly had chronic liver failure, and obviously that is not good. So, Geno, we are praying for you, your family in these tough times. We'll talk more about Geno Hayes and his situation later on in the show. We're going to start it with some draft talk, though. We do have a draft coming up this week, guys. Thursday, first round. We'll get into that in a little bit. Before we get into the draft, how we doing tonight? Cody, how we doing? We'll start with you, my man. Are you fired up for the draft?
It's weird. Like, this is the least excited I've been about a draft in a long, long time. Like, I'm excited. It's the draft. It's cool, but like
almost like we won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, we're on top and we got everybody back. So it's just picking so late. It's not a great draft in my opinion. So I mean, I'm excited, but not like years past for sure.
Well, years past, it was kind of the point of emphasis for Buccaneers fans around the world. It was like, okay, we're looking forward to the draft and the offseason. Even every other year, the head coaching hiring process. Those are some things that we at one point in time deemed essential. When you win the Super Bowl, when you have Tom Brady, when you have the guys we have, the draft is still fun. It's still entertaining, but obviously less of a matter than when you don't have that championship ring. So I agree with you. Probably least excited I've been in quite some time now. Still looking forward to it, but not that hype, not that oomph factor that we're used to getting. So, Stunna, how we doing tonight, my man? Always a pleasure to have you. How we looking for the draft?
Well, I'm always excited during draft season as a Bucs fan because that's the one day we can win. And usually we're getting top-notch talent. And me also, I collect football cards. So it's always exciting to see who our rookie's going to be and to get those rookie cards. But, this year we don't really have any needs. We don't really have any starters to fill. We didn't really lose anybody in the offseason that we needed a draft to fill. So it's kind of a weird feeling, but yet it's still kind of a surreal feeling that, we don't have to go into the draft to win because we just won the Super Bowl.
That's what I'm saying. Usually we're in this draft and we're seeing who's going to help us win the Super Bowl, but we already won the Super Bowl, so now we're looking for depth. Obviously, we still hope it's a home run, but glad you're joining us tonight, Stunning. I'm excited to get your thoughts and opinions on this draft. I'm excited to get the variety thoughts and opinions of the draft. Before we bring in ACATs quick, we got a funny comment, fellas. It's displayed now on the screen below. Bill Granado, my buddy from Chicago back home, can you guys trade Brady to the Bears? Please and thanks. I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe at one point in time, if you give us 30 first-round draft picks and a handful of money, we'll talk then. But no, for real, you guys had your chance at Brady. You guys could have offered him something, and you guys, maybe could have had a run at him last offseason. And now you got the Red Rocket, you got Nick Foles. So you guys got yourself a Super Bowl champion quarterback as well. Be happy with Nick Foles. That's a good one. He's a Super Bowl champ. He's done well before, but no, sorry, Billy, for the moment you can't have Brady. Cats, how the hell we doing tonight? And what do you think about that? Brady to the Bears, that doesn't sound right.
The Bears, among many other teams, had a chance to sign Tom Brady last offseason, and they all decided he was either too old or they didn't need him. So thank you for letting him fall into our laps. And yeah, I guess it's back to the drawing board for the Bears, and yet again, like it's always been for the Bucs, trying to draft a quarterback, but I don't feel sorry for the Bears.
I think Gabbert's still out there. They have Gabbert.
Yeah, Gabbard's still technically unsigned, and he has that winning chemistry, and Olivia Scordato comments not in a million years. So that, yep, I pretty much agree. I endorse that statement, not in a million years. Yeah, Cody, you're right. Blaine Gabbard's still available. Hot commodity Super Bowl winning quarterback. I'm shocked he's not scooped up yet. No, for real though, he was hanging with the Bucs, so maybe he comes back to us for cheap. Maybe he does come back to us for cheap. And speaking of, we got Bucko the Bruce joining. He's in the building now. He's trying to get situated. Let's bring in Bucko the Bruce. Bucko, how the hell we doing tonight, my man? It's another great live edition of the Buccateers. You were on the first live edition. Now we welcome you back for a second.
Hey, man, it's always a beauty to be here with you boys. Wouldn't rather be anywhere else, obviously. I have 4 children, so poignance and being on time is not going to be my thing ever. So glad to be here.
No problems, no worries. To catch you up, we've already had a comment that requested that Brady gets traded to the Chicago Bears. So that's how we started our live stream tonight, was a Brady to the Bears request. So
for what? For who?
I said 30 first-round picks and a lump sum of money maybe, but
wow.
They didn't really get into
Mack
who.
And 11,000 first-round picks.
Yep.
Khalil Mack and their next 11,000 first-rounders. There you go.
I still don't think that's enough.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
They're down for what?
I don't even think that the if they do trade us those 11,000 first rounders, at least make it our 11,000 first round choices, Jason Lights and not Ryan Paces. That would be a good start to that negotiation process for sure. But no, we're joined, and we got the draft coming up in a couple days, fellas. Speaking of the draft, we got these beauty of draft T-shirts on. You could see them around. I know Bucko's wearing his. It looks like Cody's wearing his, and I'm wearing mine. So you could actually win these on Twitter during the draft. Every day of the draft, Thursday through Saturday, we're going to be giving some away. We gave some away last week. We're going to give some more away now through Saturday. So be on the lookout for the draft T-shirt giveaways from the Buccateers. We just do them on Twitter. Follow up with us on Twitter at Buccateers. Keep up with the times, Apple, Spotify, Google, TimeSkew, et cetera, et cetera. Fellas, 30-second, never felt so good. How damn true is that statement heading into Thursday?
Well, I'll jump in first. Go ahead, Cody. My bad.
No, I was just saying, yeah, it looks good. Finally picking late. I'm used to like 5th, 4th, 7th, picking somewhere in there.
Yeah. Look, I honestly don't think we're picking 32nd. I got this rare itch in my craw that actually the fire was lit by none other than Cody G. But I'm of the belief we're not going to sit back here and take 8 picks at the end of every round. And no, we're not going to do that. We're going to trade up and we're going to get a pass rusher. My initial selection, I think we're going to trade up and get my boy Pootie Tang. For those who aren't familiar with who Pootie Tang is, Twitty Pay. If y'all ever seen the movie Pootie Tang from the mid-'90s, the guy said some crazy off-the-wall stuff like Sadate and Tippy Two and all that stuff. Twitty Pay sounds like something Pootie Tang would say. So if we draft him, he would forever be Pootie Tang as far as I live.
How high do you think we might have to trade up in order to get someone?
I'm thinking somewhere around 22, 21, 22, somewhere in that range.
What do you think we'd have to package? Because as we've talked about before on the podcast, we probably can't keep everyone. Super Bowl champs, our draft class last year, we've already seen us release our 7th-round pick, Raymond Calais, before the season even started. So we might not be able to keep all our draft picks. What do you see the Bucs perhaps packaging to trade up for your desired player?
Well, in my scenario, obviously 32, 64, and probably a 5th. would be what I think the cost would be to move up 10 slots. I think that's fair value.
I think that's fair value. I mean, the draft picks, for the Buccaneers right now, usually we're trying to stockpile them this year. If any year, we might be trying to, dish a couple picks for one pick. Moving up, addressing a guy like that could be big time. Cody, you agree with Bucko? You hope to see the damn splash like that, or you got something else in mind on draft night?
I would like to see it. I'd like to trade up for Phillips. I like Phillips a lot, and I like dude from Georgia. I can't never say his name right.
Azeez Ojulari.
Yeah, Ojulari. He reminds me a little bit of Shaq, but in like JPP's build. I like him a lot, but I think you're probably looking at trading up to probably more like 15 for somebody like that. So, in my first round mock, I just went Jason Oweh, which we talked about it in the group chat. I'm not real big on this dude, to be honest with you. 0 sacks last year. To me, 7 sacks over 3 years, that's not good enough for a first round pick. I know he's a physical freak, but you need 7 sacks last year, not over 3 years. So that's who I went with. I didn't do any trades or anything like that. But yes, I would much rather see us trade up for any of the three, Phillips, Ojulari, or Page, any one of them.
Actually, I wouldn't be mad with Broussard either from Miami, even though, fuck Miami. Shout to Stunner.
Hey now.
Kwity Paye from Michigan is intriguing, as you said, Bucko. I mean, Michigan, we've seen it time and time again. They do produce good defenders in the NFL for sure. Cody, I know you mocked the guy you're not a fan of from a team that I like a lot, Penn State. And I know his production wasn't there necessarily, but Penn State did have a lack of talent surrounding him last year. Not giving excuses, but they weren't up to par last year. They could have played a lot better last year. So, not giving excuses, but perhaps his lack of sack production is because of that. Now, saying that, obviously 0 sacks in a year is never appealing to the eye and never too appealing, but we'll see what happens. Again, kind of a COVID-type college football season and kind of a COVID-type draft process as well. So we'll see if that affects it at all. We'll see if that hinders things at all. Trading up for a guy like Phillips, now that might not be a bad idea. How high you have to go. I agree with Bucko, perhaps. I think you could get Phillips, too, right where Bucko said, maybe in the 20 to 22 range. I'm not really sure, but we'll see. Jason Oweh, as you said, Cody, he might fall to us at 32, but a guy like Phillips, you might have to trade up for.
You're going to trade.
Go ahead, Stunner. Go ahead.
Oh, one thing I want to say about I don't want to completely badmouth him. The dude is an absolute physical freak. I think he just I didn't I think, like you said, there's not a ton of talent. To me, for him, we would be a perfect spot. He's got 2 proven pass rushers to learn behind, a great defensive coach in Bowles, doesn't have to step right in and start. So, he could very well end up being the best pass rusher out of the class. That wouldn't completely surprise me. But as far as, polished guys right away, this isn't him. That's not what you'd be getting in him.
Yeah, Bucko, what were you going to say? What say you?
No, I was going to say, me personally, I think a guy like Jalen Phillips is the number 1 pass rusher. I know a lot of guys don't really like him. In my opinion, I think he's the best pass rusher. But from what we've seen and what we know, there are maybe 5-6 guys total. If you include Tryon, who we've been rumored to be interested in, which I really don't like. I don't think he's a pure pass rusher. But if you include Tryon, there's 5 to 6 guys that fit that mold of a pass rusher. And that's the whole damn draft.
Yeah.
So that means guys like that are going to get pushed up where you're going to see a run on them. And boom, all 5 of them are going to go in a cluster of 8 picks. So to think any of them are going to fall to 32, I think is naive because you know how this draft works. Once a run goes on a certain position group, it goes. Now, the benefactor that we're talking about is we're looking at 5 quarterbacks going in the top 10 possibly. That's beautiful for every other team, not in the top 10. But I hold reservations thinking any of these guys are going to fall to 32. And by knowing Jason Light and knowing the aggressiveness that we're showing to go for 2 in this nature, I don't think we're going to be passive aggressive. I think we're going to make what we want happen, and henceforth trading up seems to be the scenario.
There's a couple of these guys, like if it was a deeper pass rush draft, like a couple of those guys I don't think would be first rounders. But like you said, it wouldn't shock me a bit if every one of the guys we named goes in the first. But like in other years, like I really think about half of them, they're like second round guys. It's just same with the defensive tackles. It's just such a weak D-line class that it's like you said, it's going to push guys up. People that need a pass rusher are going to reach because that's all there is.
I read a quote on Jason Oweh as well, and it said he had the single freakiest pro day at the edge position I've ever seen and only started playing football in 2016. So we got to remember with Oweh, he's only 4 years into his football career, and, big pro day. His grade actually went from a 74.6 in 2019 to an 84.4 this past season. Problem is, this is from PFF, and they're not that great. So you take this with a grain of salt. There goes Bucko the Bruce. He'll probably be joining back in. He fades out a lot. We got a comment quick from Joe, good watcher of the show, good fan of the show, Cleve and me host. He says, laugh my ass off. Chris Sims, former Bucs quarterback, by the way, now number one enemy to many Bucs fans because he's just ignorant and a fool. But anyways, laugh my ass off. Chris Sims have Bucs going Fields at 32. Guy has little brains. ACAT, speaking of Chris Sims, what's your thoughts on his analysis here? I mean, Chris Sims is not the smartest guy, and he's not no fan of the Bucs. Am I right on that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he lost this. It was this. I didn't think losing your spleen took away brain cells. I mean, there's always, every year I think there's a guy that drops and falls that you don't expect. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is the first one that comes to mind, but I don't see any way Justin Fields falls to 32. I don't know what his thinking is on that. I didn't read his article. I really didn't want to give him a click, so I'm just going to figure that it was Bliss. Yeah, I don't know where he's coming from with the idea that he, of all people, would fall to 32nd.
Guys like Chris Sims, Dan Orlovsky, these nothing NFL players, their niche now that they're trying to create is that hot take, dare to be different, look at me guy. Like, now, granted, if you go and look at Chris Sims' history over the past 5 years, he's actually nailed these quarterbacks. Like, he had Lamar Jackson, number one quarterback that year. He had Justin Herbert over everybody last year, which I heard nobody have Justin Herbert the number one quarterback except Chris Sims. So I do want to be fair what I'm saying here, but guys, we watch football. We know football. This is something that we live, we love. No one can sit here and watch Justin Fields play quarterback and tell me that he's the fifth best quarterback in this draft. That shit is stupid. And I think that's hot take level stuff, and I'm not going to engage in that. I'm going to give you my honest opinion. I think Justin Fields is the second best quarterback in the draft. I like Zach Wilson. He can be very good. I do not like Mac Jones. I don't know what Trey Lance is. None of us do. The guy played 14 games. How do you know what he is?
That one game wasn't enough film for you last year?
What? Come on, man.
No, I'm just
miss me with the dumb shit. Yes, I know his measurables, his physical talent, I hate the fucking word, but upside is way out there. But Justin Fields is dude. I watched him and Trevor Lawrence play each other in high school. Okay, they only grew up 15 miles apart from each other, and I watched them on regular TV, watched them play in a playoff game, and they were both at 17 years old, fucking incredible. I haven't seen anything over the last 4 years to tell me that they've gotten worse. They're both, in my opinion, can't miss prospects, and whoever gets them later in the draft is going to be just fine. Trust me.
It was just a short time ago, if my memory serves correct, that everyone was drooling over Justin Fields making plays in the college football playoffs, perhaps saying, oh, Urban Meyer might even go somewhere and get drafted and, perhaps favor Fields over Lawrence. Everyone was just on everyone was just on Fields a couple months back, and now that the draft is here, everyone seems to have perhaps lost their faith in him. But I agree with you, Bucko. I think Fields is a top 3 quarterback in this year's draft. This Wilson guy, we're not really sure. Stunna, what do you think the Bucs do at 32, and what do you make of the quarterbacks in this year's draft?
I think the quarterbacks in this year's draft are better than last year's, honestly. I don't know what the beef is on Fields. He's phenomenal in my mind. As far as the Bucks at 32, I'm on team trade down. I think we trade down and we get because he does better in the second round to me. The majority of his best draft picks is second or third round picks. So I think we need to accumulate as much as that is necessary. I don't like him as much in the late rounds until we got BA. He's done better in the late rounds. So to me, I'm on team trade down. I'm not, this draft doesn't have a lot of exceptional players like the last one did with the 4 tackles, or the one before that had with, Devin White. So as a Bucks fan, I'd like to get us a bunch of second, third round picks. Throw darts at the board and see if we can hit a couple. And I love the quarterbacks. I'm like Bucko, man. These guys were Georgia high school products, and they were elite 11 quarterbacks, and they were the top quarterbacks in the nation. Trevor Lawrence would have went number 1 last year over Burrow. So let's not get ahead of ourselves and give these guys the respect they deserve.
Absolutely, but I gotta hold on. This is a live draft show. We are less than 48 hours away from this shit kicking off. What the hell do you want to trade down for? Well, we are not in a position where we need a lot of depth. What we need is 1 or 2 key contributors to our already stacked roster. That window is about that big. Fuck building for 2023. I could give a good goddamn right now. We had to wait 18 years to get here. Give me somebody that's going to be better than Anthony Nelson right now. Give me somebody that's going to be better than, Tanner Hudson. Or, give me immediate impact at a position that we already have good players. We just need depth at immediately. I don't need to develop anybody right now. We can worry about later. Let's go get the second one. Let's go for 2.
Okay, number 1. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Cody.
2, I like Quinn. I always say his name wrong. Renez, the center. I just
the center guard from Wisconsin Whitewater or wherever. Yeah, that guy's a beast. I love to have that guy.
Stunner's been pushing for him for a while.
I've seen him going anywhere. I haven't seen him in any first round mocks. I've seen him in the second or third. So to me, the end of the second, it's the perfect spot. But if Jensen goes down, we're in trouble at center. We don't have a proven center. I think he could play swing guard, center, backup, future guys. So to me, that's kind of like what Bucko's saying he wants now, and me too. He can be good right now, impact right now, especially. We could get in a pinch. So.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to see us go
hold on, guys. I'm gonna be right back.
Yeah, no worries. Take your time, Bucko. Sounds like he had some communication problems in the background. You know how kiddos could be sometimes. Cody, I agree. Stunner, you were an advocate on this guy. What did you see in this guy from Whitewater that Cody's seen as well that makes you want him?
I saw the same kind of performance at the Senior Bowl as I saw with Ali Marpet. And one thing people got to understand, the guy from Wisconsin Whitewater, Minutes or whatever, he's going to go before Ali Marpet went. And we got Ali Marpet in the middle of the second round. Okay. To me, the Senior Bowl is ultimate training grounds because, those are the elite players going into the draft in an all-star showcase. Okay. Now, I was going to address what Bucko had to say. Number 1, we got about 3 roster spots. Number 2, we have salary cap issues. So why do we need to look at someone with a 5th-year option? We need to get the people with 4-year contracts, and then if they're good enough, re-sign them. Okay, and then he talked about 2 backups. Okay, who are we going to get to challenge a starter? We have a right guard who's coming off injury. Okay. Where else do we need a starter? Where else can we find someone in this draft that's going to challenge a starter? Not very many places. Okay, right guard is one place that you could find an upgrade. A first-round talent at that position is going to be better than a third-rounder in Kappa or a undrafted free agent. And the guy Stinney. Okay, so there that's a chance to upgrade that position. But where else are you going to upgrade and find a starter in this draft? That's what I want to know. Obviously, edge, you're not going to find a starter. Okay. Obviously, D tackle, you're not going to find a starter. Obviously, secondary, in my opinion, you're not going to find a starter. I like the Newsom kid, though. But he's not going to beat out one of our starting corners. Okay. So where are you going to find a starter? You're going to find a starter on the O-line. And then you might find a starter in what? The return game. So that's why you trade down, you get a high talent in those positions, and then you're not reaching for anybody, and then you could fill out those 3 roster spots we have available. We don't have a lot of roster spots available. And we didn't lose anybody in free agency. So that's why I say get multiple picks the second to third round and don't even worry about the late rounds.
Yeah, we've only lost a handful of backups. Stunna, I like where your head's at because that brings affordability and flexibility. I'm interested to see how the practice squads work this year. They were huge last year because of COVID. If they are the same this year, trading down would make more sense. But at the same time, I don't mind staying at 32. It would be different here. I don't want to trade down. I don't want to trade up. I'm going to stay at 32 perhaps. But if I do trade down, I'd maybe like to get a veteran, a cheap one on a cheap contract. If a team's looking to unload it, pay the guy. Maybe back in return that could help us win now. I'm not really sure. This is a unique draft scenario for us. It's a unique draft spot for us. And before we get more into round 2 chatter and then carry on into round 3, and then we'll talk late picks for a little bit here too. But Pops asks, are we interested in the draft at all for the Saints, Panthers, or Falcons, a.k.a. the rest of the NFC South, a.k.a. enemy number 1, a.k.a. not the good guys, or do we don't give a damn? I'll let the floor handle this. Cody, we'll start with you. Do you give a damn at all about the Saints, Panthers, and Falcons, or do you view this as fuck it? I'm just focusing on the Bucs. That's what we're here for. That's all I care about.
What's worrying me is all this talk about Fields falling. I mean, if I'm the Panthers and Fields is there, like I'm going to take that dude. Like I'm not going to hesitate. I'm not worried about Teddy Bridgewater. He can play 1 year, let Fields sit. So in that aspect, yeah, I'm a little worried. I could definitely see a scenario where he falls to 7 too, and they take him. As far as the Saints, I mean, they've drafted well. I've got to give that team some love. I mean, they have built a hell of a roster. I would imagine, especially even before Lattimore's legal troubles, I would think they were going corner. So I was still on board with corner, but they're picking pretty late. Atlanta, I'm not worried about Atlanta. Like, what's that? Team's a long way from contending in this division. But Carolina worries me a little bit. They added quite a few pieces in the last draft and then free agents this year. If they land someone like Fields, that team could be a problem in another year or two. So I would definitely be watching that.
Yeah, Carolina, Saints, Falcons. I'm always interested to see what the NFC South does during the draft because it does impact us directly. We play all of these guys twice a year, which makes up a big part of the schedule. I guess not necessarily as big of a percentage anymore with Big Shot Goodell up in it from 16 to 17 games because he wants a few extra dollars in his pocket. He puts the oddity of games on the field. But, yeah, these division games are still important, so we do see these young guys a couple times a year. And as you said, the Saints have killed it with their drafting. They've gotten guys like Trey Hendrickson with late picks, and I know A-Cats was a big advocate of a guy like him, and he ended up leaving for free agency money elsewhere. A-Cats, are you concerned with the NFC South at all? We've seen these guys make some good late-round picks before, or are you kind of just focused on what the Bucs do this time?
I'm really, not focused a lot on the rest of the division just because I feel, coming off the Super Bowl win, obviously these Atlanta, Carolina picking in the top 10 for a reason. I don't want to see Justin Fields in our division either. But at the end of the day, Carolina I don't think Bridgewater is their long-term answer. So one way or another, I think they're going to upgrade at that position. If it's not this year, it's next year, one way or the other. So, but no, honestly, I haven't looked at any of them, haven't really looked that closely at what any of those 3 teams are going to be doing.
And I like the quarterback emphasis from both Cody and A-Cats. Carolina is looking to upgrade. I mean, and here's the interesting thing. Do you view Sam Darnold as an upgrade to begin with over a Teddy Bridgewater? Their quarterback room seems like a little messy room right now. Perhaps, head coach Matt Rule, who seems to be, this big offensive whisperer. If it's true, then I think that maybe he's going to mold Sam Darnold, try and form Darnold into a quarterback that people thought he was, or Bridgewater. I mean, Bridgewater's losing steam in Carolina. It seems to me you wouldn't trade for Darnold unless you give him the chance. But as Cody said, too, a lot of draft quarterbacks, a lot of nice prospects this year for people to draft. I don't know why Atlanta maybe wouldn't have tried and got an extra first-round pick for Matt Ryan. They could have drafted his replacement this year. They're already trying to shop Julio Jones. Their Super Bowl window came and gone. They're not going to go back anytime soon. Should have got the young draft capital for Matt Ryan, and boom, insert a Trey Lance in there or insert somebody in Atlanta with that first-round extra pick they have. And then, crazy idea, they would have been able to draft a guy to protect him with their other first-round pick. But no, I'm no damn GM, so I'm just playing games here. Stunna, do you agree with ACATS and Cody, though? Are you interested at all to see what these other teams do in this draft, or are you just focusing on the Bucs?
To me, the draft is about the kids in college getting that opportunity, with their parents crying and stuff. That's the majesty of the draft to me. And then the other thing is, I don't like any of the teams if they take away a player I like. Now, I thought Carolina had a great draft last year, but it really didn't help them. Okay. Now, I do disagree with Cody that I think Atlanta is a bigger threat in our division than the Saints. And I don't agree with getting rid of Matt Ryan. I think if you have a franchise quarterback like that, you let him, you hold on to him till the wheels fall off. Okay.
Yeah.
Because then we get rid of Doug Williams, and then that set our franchise back about 20 years. So, to me, Atlanta, they get the tight end from Florida where they're sitting. I would definitely get rid of Julio. He's washed. But I don't know, what I'm saying? Depends on if they can sucker someone into taking that contract. But and to me, Atlanta's a bigger threat than New Orleans. New Orleans is question marks all over the place. Okay. But Atlanta, all they got to do is fix that defense because their offense was legit. Don't forget, Atlanta almost beat Kansas City. Okay. So they did. I thought they looked better against Kansas City than the Saints. With the players the Saints had last year, which they lost Jackrabbit, the Saints lost some good players. All right, to me, the Saints are rebuilding. So to me, as far as these three teams and who they draft, like I said, last year I thought Carolina did great getting a defensive tackle out of Auburn, but then I really didn't see them on the field do much. So the draft is really about getting that prospect and then developing them into a player. Because sometimes you get a prospect, you don't develop them. Sometimes you get someone that you don't think was great, but they turn out being a superstar. So as far as those teams, I just don't like them if they take players away from us. I definitely don't want to see Fields in Carolina. I think that would flip them immediately into a contender. Because when you get an upgraded quarterback, you get a franchise quarterback in there with the receivers they already have. But that's where Atlanta is the same way. Atlanta has great receivers. So I don't know, man. To me, I'm more excited about playing in the South because to me, all three teams are down. Okay, so to me, the South is not really a big a threat as the NFC as a whole, and trying to dominate the conference now instead of trying to dominate division like we've had to do in the past.
Yeah. I agree with that. We got to try and dominate the conference. I do think that the Saints perhaps are rebuilding as they've let a lot of good guys go and stuff, but I think our whole division is kind of retooling as well. I think Atlanta might be waving the white flag if they are willing. I mean, Julio is washed over the hill in my eyes as well. So Calvin Ridley and perhaps a first-round wide receiver or something, that'd be another dynamic room. But they haven't won in quite some years now with Matt Ryan, and perhaps their best time to win with Matt Ryan, they did blow it in the Super Bowl. So I'm not really sure what their front office is thinking. But the Saints, I guess that, Stunna, that must mean you don't have much faith in Sir Jameis Winston no matter who they draft?
I think Jameis Winston will do a great job backing up Taysom Hill this year. But the Saints run through Kamara on offense. The Saints have always beat us with their pass rush. That's why I want to upgrade the offensive line. But I thought last year with the emergence of our new right tackle that we kind of were able to keep them in check by the time we got our offense rolling. After that long break, we got our bye week, we got our guys healthy, and we got that offense rolling. But the way you beat New Orleans, of course, New Orleans always beats us because they have the officials in their back pocket and they clutch and grab our receivers every play and get away with that crap. That's a big factor in when we play them. If you could get away with pass interference and clutch and grab our receivers down the field all the way down there, and we can't throw it to them, that's a factor. However, in the playoffs, we countered that by throwing it to the tight ends and the backs, and that seemed to work because they couldn't cover those guys. Okay, I don't know who that linebacker they have with the long hair. We were dogging that guy all game. If you watch, one time Jensen got on that guy and threw him out of bounds. I mean, so to me, it's going to be about, I'm going to watch the draft because I want to make sure that these teams don't upgrade. But even if they upgrade, it's always about us. It's always about us. It's how can we get better to counteract whatever they're doing, but just get better because we have to dominate teams outside our division. We got to dominate the whole NFC this year.
Yeah, we must dominate the whole NFC. It's our year. I mean, last year was a year early. We won it a year early, which is awesome because that means we still have this year to go back to back, and we were really gearing up for this year. Last year, obviously, you always want to win in the moment, and we did sign all those guys to win last year, but this year ultimately was the end goal. I think back to back is a real – going for two is a real possibility. I think that this draft may enhance that, and we'll get into round two chatter here a bit now. That was a great NFC South question and a little bit of a discussion there. So keep the questions coming, guys. Go on Buccateers Twitter, and you could tweet us today any question, and we'll discuss it now. We're here live for about 32 more minutes or so, roughly. We're going to run until about 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern time, so about an hour and 10 minutes in totality. But get at us on Twitter, ask us a question, or go on YouTube in the group chat and ask a question there, and we'll be happy to put it on the screen as we had all show so far. So we're moseying along through the Buccateers here. We're about halfway through now, and we're going to get into round two. After we talk round two, we're going to do a quick late round matchup, and then we're going to get into a little bit about Jason Light and his draft success and not. Then we're going to close the show with some Geno Hayes talk. So, Cody, you said round two, Whitewater, Wisconsin offensive lineman, which I would think would be a good play because the Buccaneers, after Jensen, they don't really have a backup established center, as you said, and that could lead to problems. And having an offensive lineman, having a young offensive lineman, even if they don't start right away, you can never have too many offensive linemen. So even if he is a reserve right out of the gate.
And why not move Jensen to guard if you have an upgraded center?
You think he would be an upgrade at center, though? You think the kid out of Whitewater would upgrade against Ryan Jensen at center, Stunna?
Well, they say that Jensen always has a bad snap out of the gun. You know, we saw that in the Super Bowl. So if you have somebody that's automatic snapping a shotgun, then, you know, we saw what happened last year when we put A.J. Chipley at center and moved Ryan Jensen to guard. I thought he did a pretty darn good job. So, you know, if that's something we could do full time, and you know, if Jensen is more comfortable playing guard to center anyway, that'll do the team great. Regardless of anything, we need an interior lineman and an edge offensive lineman in this draft.
Yeah, I agree. We definitely need a interior. We need to beef up the battlegrounds with edge rushers, offensive linemen, D linemen as much as we can, because the trenches is where the game is won and lost on each side of the ball. We'll see what happens. We'll see where we end up going in round two, but there's a lot of options available. There's a lot of guys here in this year's draft. Donna, just say he's gone. Do you see us going anywhere else? I mean, we have a comment here from Robert Jonas that says Joe Tyron, Eric Stokes, Dylan Radoon, some NFL draft prospects here. Obviously, Joe Tyron is a good linebacker from Washington, and the other guys are good prospects as well. Stunna, any of these three listed, and then we'll ask you, Cody, any of these three listed here below catch your eye? Specifically, I'm not sure if you're familiar with these names, but obviously Robert Jonas may like him if he's suggesting these names in the chat.
I think
Stunna?
we need a wide receiver 3. I think we need an offensive guard. I think we need an edge rusher. And I think we possibly might need a running back 3. That's what we need out of the draft. So if one of these guys can fulfill one of those roles, then I'd be more than happy with getting them.
Yeah, and again, it looks like Dylan Radunes is an offensive tackle who went to North Dakota State, so he would be offensive lineman, and it looks like he might be a good sleeper. And then you have Eric Stokes, who it says from SportsIllustrated.com, the Georgia cornerback who ran a 4.25 40-yard dash and ably covered the likes of Jerry Jeudy, Justin Jefferson, and Devontae Smith during college, could soon be a star. And then obviously Joe Tyron is a standout linebacker from Washington. Cody, do you see any of these three options as realistic draft targets for the Bucs?
Second round is where I would like to get a guy like Tyron, but I don't think, like, if we went to the end of the second round, I don't think he'll be there just because it's such a weak – it's just a weak class. It's going to push all those guys up like we talked about. Eric Stokes could be nice. I don't know that we're going to be able to pay all our corners, and, we get some injuries or whatever. So I personally like the center better, but, like, I would be fine with Tyron or Stokes because, you can never have, like, pass rushers, corners, like you're not going to have too many of those. So I would be good with either of those. But Tyron especially, I think we'd have to trade up into the second round to get him. I don't think he'll be there at the end of it.
Yeah, and as you said, you never know what's going to happen with our defensive backs. We have some guys who are going to look to get paid soon. They're young corners. They're good corners. Carlton Davis is going to earn a payday. So it's interesting to see what happens. At the same time, we did extend a guy like Donovan Smith, and Tristan Wirfs is young and whatnot. So Dylan Radunes, although you can never have too many tackles, not quite sure if he would make sense early on for a team like us, unless he could move interior perhaps. Then that would be interesting to see there. But we did just extend Donovan Smith, and we do his worst, so I'd look more so for Tyron or Stokes for reasons that Cody and Stunna named. Last question for ACATS, and then we'll move on to late picks in the draft, and then we'll flip the page here onto Jason Light's draft history. ACATS, thoughts on the Bucs perhaps aiming at offensive line in the draft? Stunna and Cody are advocating for some O-linemen. We see Robert Jonas saying Dylan Radunes. Do you think the Bucs should draft an O-lineman early on, or do you think that shouldn't be something that should be done?
I'd have no issue with doing that. And if you look back at the Chiefs last year, and you wonder, teams O-linemen, they're volatile in the way that you're going to see injuries across an offensive line. I mean, heck, Alex Kappa missed most of the playoffs. So inevitably, you need to have depth there at that. You can never have enough in the trenches. So I have no issue at all if that's the direction they go in.
Yeah, I agree. You can never have enough, in the trenches. So that's a good point. I think a lineman would be a nice one. And we have another question pouring in. What is the best draft in Bucs history? From Pops, the best draft in Bucs history. Well,
1995.
What'd you say, Kat?
Quickly. I said 1995. Next question.
Yeah, that's an obvious one, and we have a couple big Hall of Famers in that class. We'll get into that one quickly, but I do want to say what was not the best draft class in Buccaneers history. I still think that this class is, kind of funny in its entirety. I think you guys know which one I'm talking about. The only successful one ended up being Ryan Smith. He ended up being a Super Bowl winner for us, and he did stick. But real quick, before we move to the best draft in Bucks history, as ACAT said, 95. He said it so quickly, everyone could hear it because we got two of the best Bucks players of all time in that draft, and we'll talk about Brooks and Sapp here shortly. But Vernon Hargreaves, Ryan Smith, Noah Spence, Devontae Bond, Caleb Beninock, and Danny Vitale was the Buccaneers 2016 NFL draft. You would have thought that was like the McDonald's burger flipping crew on Saturdays or something if you read that roster off besides Ryan Smith's name. None of them had too great of NFL careers. Obviously, Vernon Hargreaves was getting high as hell half the time. Probably couldn't even see the guy lined up across from him on the damn field. And then some of those guys had bad luck. Ryan Smith won a championship here. But yeah, Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp, and a handful of others were definitely the reason why that Bucks draft class was the best, as they had two Hall of Famers, two first ballots with Sapp and Brooks, and Brooks was taken round 1, pick 28. Sapp fell a little bit because he had his draft day dilemma, but we got him in round 1 as well. And the 1995 draft was a blessing, wasn't it, ACATs?
It just couldn't have asked for any better, man. You couldn't ask for any better. Teams would have warned up, not for quote-unquote legal issues, would have been picked way at the top of that draft. Broke well for us, got him, and the rest is history.
Changed the franchise, man. I mean, it literally turned the whole franchise. Like that draft turned our franchise around. Without that draft, we obviously we don't win that Super Bowl or first Super Bowl. Like it's just that draft was amazing. Perfect. Character concerns pushed Sapp down a little bit, but it worked out. It worked out for us. Amazing draft for sure.
Warren Sapp was one of those guys who the Bucks are so lucky to fall in their lap. Obviously, Derek Brooks too, but Warren Sapp, I'll get into him quickly here. He was supposed to be a lot higher on draft day in terms of getting drafted than he really was, and he has so many accolades that he's easily one of the best interior linemen of all time. Analysts at the time thought he would be drafted much higher. This is according to an NFL draft scout. He ran the fastest time in the 40-yard dash, but due to reports of multiple failed marijuana and cocaine tests released the night before the draft, many teams passed on him. The NFL released a statement strongly denying the rumors, and Sapp today believes an anonymous snitch had intentionally sabotaged his draft chances. So it seems like Sapp thought he had it out for him, but nonetheless, he fell into our laps. We got him and Derek Brooks. The rest is history. We can name the other cast of characters from the 95 NFL draft, but they don't ring bells nearly as much. You had Melvin Johnson, Jerry Wilson, Clifton Abraham, Wardell Roos, Steve Ingram, and Jeff Rogers. Stunna, any of those guys ring a bell to you? Besides, obviously, we had Sapp and Brooks, but the rest of the cast of characters, none of them ring too many bells for me.
Clifton Abraham, I believe, is a DB.
Yep.
Yeah, he was a real good one.
He went to Florida State.
Yeah, he was. He was very decent DB. He was our slot corner. Yeah, he was pretty good, man. We had a couple good drafts in there, like 93, 94, 95, where we picked up people in the late rounds. 93, we got Lynch. 94, we got Eric Rhett. And then about 95. Now, if you want to look at some terrible drafts, you talked about 2016. Go back and look at 1991 or 1992. Okay, those drafts were terrible. All right, I think both drafts we might have got like one starter.
We turned
and
the
then
wrong
1997
card
was what happened?
What year was it that we turned in the wrong card? I think I was 3 years old. For Buccaneers, was that 86? I think.
No, 86 was the Bo Jackson draft.
Oh, right. See, I'm mixing up the all drafts now. Turning in the wrong card. Bo Jackson. Bucks floor.
I wish we would have turned in the wrong card because anybody but Bo Jackson would have worked on that draft. But if you look at 97, we got Warwick Dunn. We got a bust in Riedel Anthony, but then we got Martin Gramatica in the late rounds.
Yeah,
so there was a string. Go ahead.
And what year we got? 96 we got Mike Allstott, and I believe we took Donnie Abraham as well in 96. If my memory
yes, but we got Marcus Jones and Reagan Upshaw with 2 first-round picks in 96. But we did better in the late rounds. Same thing in 1992. I think we traded away our first-round pick or something for Chris Chandler or something ridiculous. And man, I think we got a wide receiver in the second round, but man, those drafts were terrible back in the day. The Ray Perkins era was terrible. But like I said, 97 we did good. 2000 we traded away both first round picks for Keyshawn, but we got Cozy Coleman in the second round. So Rich McKay, he did all right with the later round picks when he took over as GM.
Right. It was wide receivers for him he had a hard time with, and that's why you had to trade for Keyshawn. So, but certain GMs pick certain positions better than others. Jason Light, for instance, has been outstanding at picking wide receivers. Running backs has been, we'll say it's been a mixed bag, but receivers, he's gotten value in the first round with Evans. He's gotten value in the third round with Godwin, and that's an understatement. He's got Scotty Miller in the sixth, I believe, Tyler Johnson in the third. And I know it's only been 1 year, but I really like him. So when it comes to receivers, man, Jason Light has been good at that from the get-go, even in his earlier years here. So
I'm lying too.
What about tight ends with ASJ and OJ Howard?
Well, ASJ was brutal, and OJ Howard, I guess at this point, as much as I really love the pick, you can't. You got to give a thumbs down on that. Now we did get Cameron Brate was not undrafted free agent. Wasn't he with the Saints? And then we plucked him from the Saints, I believe.
Yeah, he was with the Saints.
So, I mean, you did all right there. OJ Howard, not so much, although healthy. If he's healthy this year, that's always the if with him. He was off to a great start last year. But, yeah, that was a miss there. I mean, you have to consider it a miss. But, as like I said, some of it is just luck, I think. And some of it, maybe your scouts that scout certain positions. You scout the wide receiver position really well. Running back, we've picked a lot of them. Jones, Rojo. I mean, I don't have an issue with the pick. I don't have an issue. I wasn't crazy about Rojo when we picked him. It's been, like I said, a mixed bag. Picked Chuck Sims, didn't like him. I don't know yet. I'm not ready to give up on Keyshawn Vaughn quite yet. I don't think he can put much stock into a season with no preseason, and and he was kind of buried. So to be decided on that.
We know one thing. He's not cut out to draft kickers. I don't think his drafting resume has been the best, with Sir Matt Gay and Roberto Aguayo leaving the building rather quickly. But he has done a hell of a job drafting, and as Stunna always advocates, it's been a lot of Bruce Arians, too, in the past 2 draft classes that has done a hell of a job, and Bruce is a hell of a drafter in Arizona as well, if you go look at those. Robert Jonas says 76, the Selman bros. Leroy and Dewey Selman, who could forget? They were gridiron warriors for the Buccaneers, especially Leroy. Both great, but Leroy, obviously one of the Bucs' all-time greats, our first Hall of Famer of the franchise, and really, the really front runner. The main reason why we're known as a defensive team for our history entirety, it started on the foot because of Leroy Selman chasing quarterbacks. So, Robert.
Yeah, but then you go 77 and 78 and see that we could have had Earl Campbell and Tony Dorsett in the same backfield.
We took Ricky Bell.
Man.
Rest in peace. I wasn't born yet, but I know we took Ricky Bell instead of those guys. I don't know.
Ricky Bell. I remember
Ricky Bell, and we traded out and got the tight end God, I can't believe it. Number 88, the one that's on the Ring of Honor.
Giles.
Yeah, we traded Giles for Earl Campbell.
And speaking of Jim Giles, he's actually announcing the Bucks draft picks on Friday night. I don't know if you guys seen that, but Jim Giles will be announcing the Bucks' second and third round draft picks. So that'll be interesting and fun to see. We do have another
Bring back Zaza.
comment from Bring back Zaza. From Joe Ariola. I've seen Jason Oweh in 3 mock drafts to Bucks. Seems like the hot pick. We did talk about that a little earlier in the show. We covered that a good portion. A lot of us wouldn't mind the Oweh pick, and we've explained it. We went back and forth, but yeah, we came to the consensus where if it's at the 32 spot, might not be bad. Cody would rather have a different edge rusher. That might be available. Stunner wants to trade down. Bucko wants to trade up. Everyone's got different idea here. That's what I love about this show. We got 5 of us all bring different ideas, different opinions. There's a lot of edge rushers available. A lot of people seem that Jason Oweh might be the odd man out and fall into Tampa at 32. We'll see what happens. Robert Jonas did add back Ricky Bell. I don't know why it's not Ricky Bell, Doug Williams. Yep, there you go. That was a hell of a draft class as well. Doug Williams, Ricky Bell. Stunna, you got a fan comment here as well. Miss you, Stunna. Keep on stunning from Joe. He said, "Miss you, Stunna. Keep on stunning." Yep. So there you have it.
Joe, I said what's up. But what I was trying to say though is if Awoye is your pick, then trade down.
Yeah, if you trade down for how long you think he'll last though?
Even if not, I mean there's edge rushers that are comparable. There's edge rushers that are comparable in the second round that you could get that are comparable to his talent level. Okay, he reminds me of the guy that the Philadelphia drafted ahead of Warren Sapp, who was a workout warrior. Sometimes those workout warriors don't pan out because they got no film. Okay, if Awoye is your guy, trade down, and if he falls to you, then he's your guy.
Yep, I agree. If always the guy, you're gonna want to maybe trade down. And sorry, had a little technical difficulty there, but we seem to be back. And we have another comment from Hurricane Jason. What up, Buccateers? What up, Hurricane Jason? How we doing tonight? Hope you're having a good night. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for hopping into the Buccateers. So, and then Robert Jonas again says Bell 77, Williams 78. We just said, Robert, thanks for keeping us in tune with all these draftees and draft years. You're taking us back through a time loop here. 76 Selman Bros, 77 Bell, 78 Williams. We've talked about just about every Buccaneers draft class in history now. That's what I love about these live pods. You get some good comments and you get all this good conversation and good side conversations as well. So that's always fun. I can't say I disagree with you, Stunna. If we do get Jason Oweh trading down, wouldn't be a bad one for him. I just don't know what the hell we're going to do with all those picks. They'd maybe be wasted unless we could get other year picks. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of guys won't be able to make the team this year. That'll be interesting to see what happens, but we'll see. A lot of draft great talk going on. We did just talk about Jason Light quick and whatnot, and before you know it, just like that, the show's almost over. We've been on for an hour now. You have been tuned into the Buccateers. We'll give you guys about 10 bonus minutes here and run until about 8:30. We did lose a good one. We did lose a great one. Geno Hayes. Rest in peace to Geno Hayes. He lost his life this morning at the young age of 33. It was too young. He was battling liver problems, and he went into hospice a couple days ago, and he had some great seasons for the Buccaneers before going on to Chicago and Jacksonville. A-Cats, will start with you here. Any bright spots or bright moments you can remember particularly about Geno Hayes' career as a Buck or anywhere else?
Yeah, I still remember him picking up a block punt against, I don't remember if he blocked it himself and running it back for a touchdown against Carolina in 2008. I believe he had a pick six in Arizona. I could be mistaken on that. But I'm pretty sure I'm right. Later in the 2010 season, which was a fun year, he actually interacted with fans, including myself, on Twitter quite a bit back in the day. He's just a good dude, man. He was a fun player. He was a fun guy to be around, from what I understand. And I didn't know he was sick. And it's just awful for him, and along with after VJax, to see that. Two guys way too young. And my heart goes out to his family and his friends.
After living the dream and winning the Super Bowl, we've had quite the nightmare all season, losing Vincent Jackson at the age of 38 and now Geno Hayes at the age of 33. It's been terrible and heartbreaking between Hayes and VJ. So Cody, A-Cats, I do agree. He was just a great guy. And I remember that play against Carolina specifically, and you are right about the pick six as well. He had a plethora of great plays for the Bucs. I was really mad when we let him go. I remember I thought Chicago got a steal of a deal on him, as he really became a starter and keystone for those 3 years. He had as many as 98 tackles in 1 year. And that same year, he had 12 QB hits and 3 sacks as well, with the forced fumble and 2 interceptions. And then the year after, he had that pick six. He had 6 pass deflections and 82 tackles. So he was a consistent playmaker and tackler for the Bucs. Cody, thoughts on Geno Hayes and yet another soul lost too soon for this Buccaneers franchise?
Yeah, it just seemed like a good dude. I thought he was a good late-round draft pick for us. I feel terrible for his wife and kids, man. He's just a young dude. You never know. Sad.
It is really sad. And again, he went on then to Chicago, and then he went on to Jacksonville. And, 33, he should still be playing, really. He should be. Sadly, this morning we got tragic news. Stunning thoughts on Geno Hayes and how he impacted the Buccaneers organization as a whole?
Real quick, ask our audience if they can remember our 1988 draft. And as far as Geno, I agree with A-Cats, man. This guy used to sign autographs after training camp. He was really down with the fans. He was a really likable guy. He was down to earth, even though he had a celebrity status, and he was just a really humble, nice guy.
Yeah, and that seems to be the consensus. A great guy, a humble guy, nice guy. And I met him at a couple games. Not really met him, but when he was walking in and out of the tunnel, he always made times for fans and people as of that and whatnot. Stunna did say people 1998 draft. If anyone remembers, they could comment. But if the show,
no, 88, 98 was Jackass Green and Brian Kelly in the second round. Everyone remembers that one.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 1988. Get us on Twitter about your thoughts about the 1988 draft if the show happens to be over. If you could get it in time, get your chats and comments in here before we log off. But we got the draft a couple days away. It's been a fun time talking about it. Cody, any last words or thoughts about the draft upcoming, and what are your log-off thoughts for this evening?
I've got a late round guy for us.
Yeah, late round. Hold on. Hold the noise. We got to do some late round talk here. What the hell am I doing? Cody, great bring up. Any late round thoughts here?
Well, before I do my late round, third rounder, the guy I really like, we talked about him with Joshua Allen, Deo Oda. Man, we talked about this so many times. Pass rusher from Vanderbilt, 6'5", 285, had 12 sacks, but he tore his Achilles back in January. So might have to give him like a redshirt type year, but third, fourth round, I would love that guy. And then other than that, the guy I really like is Dwayne Eskridge, Western Michigan. He's 5'9", 190, so a little undersized, but 4'3", 540. Plays special teams, kick returner, and gunner. He played a little corner, so I think that'd be a good late round pick for us for a special teams guy and, backup wide receiver.
Yeah, and I know who I can't pronounce his name great either, but I know who you're talking about with Joshua Allen Cole when we chatted with him about this prospect from Vandy and edge rush late in the draft. We did it last year, and Russ Chappell never worked, but we had some young ones between Quentin Bell and Cam Gill. I think that you can just stockpile some of these guys late. Stunna, do you like those recommendations on late round picks, or do you have any different ones in mind?
No, I definitely agree with that. And man, I would love to hit on those. But we do a real good job with undrafted free agents. Don't forget that, too. We do a good job with undrafted free agents. And just final thoughts, man. Really excited for the draft. I don't know who's going to Ray J, but please make sure that you tweet us at Buccateers if you get some pictures at Ray J.
See, and we'll get into Ray J in a minute here about the draft, but in this year's draft, it's going to be hard again because you got a lot of small school guys who had years canceled because of COVID. We talked about this briefly before in last year's draft, how a lot of stuff happened. You had, we have Hurricane Jason saying, I think we should trade down for picks for 2022 and go from there. If we do trade down, I think it should be picks there as well. But, you get small school guys ripped off in this year's draft again with COVID. You don't have them. A lot of them didn't play. A lot of their conferences canceled or pushed back to the spring. If they were pushed back to the spring, we debated before, it could pay dividends. It's all eyes on them now, but we'll see. One guy I have an eye on from North Carolina State is a potential sleeper for the Bucs to target. He's an interior lineman. And the edge rusher that Cody was talking about, Deo Odeyingbo, or however you say it, this article speaks highly of him too. It said he looks the part with the size and some freakish qualities. But my like is from NC State late round pick, Ayla Mcneil or Ayla Mcneil. Again, I'm not too familiar with pronunciation here, but it says file McNeil under another lineman with impressive size and strength, with great agility to match. His high-level athleticism translated into fine interior pass rush production. He needs to get more consistent overall and more reliable against the run, but he can be disruptive in pressure situations right away. And there's also cornerback Aaron Robinson from UCF. Wouldn't have to go far, Central Florida to South Florida territory. So that would be nice. And as we've talked about during the pod, we have our corners who are going to be leaving, getting bigger contracts elsewhere. So a defensive back is maybe where we want to go. Robinson has the size and enough speed to be a top flight slot corner. He's not the speediest to stay with receivers downfield outside, but his quick feet are ideal for covering the inside well for a long time. So that would be that would be a help for interior wide receiver play, for slot receiver coverage. Those are a couple guys I like late. You never know what hidden gems you could find late in the draft. We've seen it before. I shared an article in our group chat. Scotty Miller, best rated 6th round wide receiver in the past decade. Take it with a grain of salt. Wasn't the greatest raters in the world, but we'll take it. Scotty Miller. We got him in the 6th. Obviously, we know Tom Brady's story. There's a lot of guys you could get late in the round that end up impacting franchises for a lifetime and do help you win Super Bowls for the present. So we're about to be in for a treat.
Brad Culpepper was a 12th round draft pick.
There you go. 12th round. That's just crazy to think about now. Imagine if, there were that many round picks nowadays. There'd be a lot of empty, wasted picks thrown away, perhaps, as we even see some 6th or 7th rounders. I've seen as high as 4th rounders not make a team. So 12 rounds, that's a lot. But yeah, Culpepper all the way back there. That's a good one. And then you got your undrafted free agent pool that we don't even talk about. The Bucs had a good amount of Super Bowl champions on their roster who were undrafted last year. So just all around, late round undrafted. I interviewed Javon Hagan, Nick Leverett, and Joshua Pearson before the season last year. They were all undrafted, and they all won the Super Bowl with us. So you never know what these late round guys or undrafted guys could do. It's 8:30 Central, which means we'll do our last segment. We'll do our go-around goodbyes and what we hope for in the draft. Cats, it's been fun tonight. Thanks for joining. Any last words for the pod and what you hope to see out of the Bucs this weekend?
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure. Like I said, my draft knowledge is limited, but with each pick, I'll YouTube the highlights and talk myself into liking each one of them. But, whether you can get immediate impact players or depth guys, because remember, we've got some guys like JPP and Sue who aren't going to play forever. So you do have to keep one eye on the present, one eye on the future, looking for us to, basically maximize the value. Obviously, I don't think anybody that we're going to pick is going to step in immediately and make a huge impact. But then again, injuries can arise, and you got to be ready to have your number called. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I'm so excited to not be excited for the draft. I'll put it that way.
I think that's a great statement right there. So excited to not be excited about the draft because, everyone's probably going to be like, oh, why aren't you guys pumped still? Why aren't you excited? Because we're usually overexcited for the draft because that's the only thing or one of the few things to usually only look forward to. Now that we won the Super Bowl, now that we're 32nd, now that we're not looking to add a guy who's going to alter the franchise, we're looking to add depth. It's nice to sit back, relax, enjoy the show, enjoy the draft, see what partakes those 3 days, and go from there. I'm 100% with you, ACAT, on your take there. It's nice to not be worrying about the draft. We got another comment. Cody G just saying, what up, bro? Hope all is well. So the love is floating around tonight for sure. Speaking of Cody, we'll bounce over to Cody now. Cody, any last words, any last thoughts, and, ideas for the draft this upcoming weekend?
What's up, bro? Hope you're doing well. Awesome as well. I almost mock this dude does, especially since Antonio Brown. We keep hearing he's going to re-sign any day now, but, it hadn't happened yet. I've seen Rondale Moore mocked to us a few times in the first round, so I'm not saying that's what I want to do, but that's not a pick that would surprise me. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm hoping for pass rusher. To me, ideally, like I said, I'd like to trade up for someone like Phillips. I think most of these guys won't make the team anyway, so let's take a chance on, one of the better players. But we'll see. I'm excited to see how it happens.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it happens. I'm excited to see how it shakes out. Phillips is a guy that a lot of people are naming. I've seen Randall Moore, his name getting mentioned more and more towards the draft for the Bucs as well. We'll see what happens there. I'm interested to see if the Buccaneers shocked the world. Last year, we were lucky that Tristan Wirfs fell to us, and we still traded up, but lucky that Tristan Wirfs fell down. And I'm interested to see if there is a guy that falls a little bit this year, if Jason Light pulls a trigger and trades up for them to get that train going. I know Stunna doesn't want to trade up. Stunna, last words on this weekend's draft and thoughts about tonight's pod.
It was a great night on tonight's pod. Buccateers running this. As far as trading up, I'm with it. It depends on the person. We got to come around. We got to come out of here with a starter. So I'm with it. If our guys there get it. Otherwise, trade down, get some future picks. Tell Joe I think that the Colts are going to draft the safety out of Texas Christian. And
Texas Christian, huh?
Yes, sir. He'll know. I'm sure he knows who I'm talking about. And I also for my final thoughts or hot take, why not trade that number 32 pick for a veteran player?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that either. I've mentioned it on previous pods, and real quick here, we do have another comment from Hurricane Jason. ETMA for first best available D tackle and DN and linebacker and cornerback for draft because free agents next year, if I'm being honest.
Don't get me started on the running backs. See, I know where I stand on the running back in the first. I don't think it's going to happen anymore, but I'm all on board for running back in the first. I think that's going to be your best player. But if we're truly taking best player available and ETN's there, that's most likely the best player available. I mean, it probably won't happen. It's not necessarily a need this year, but next year it's going to be a huge need. We're going to be in a spot where we have to draft someone next year. So I like Williams. Personally, I think Javonte Williams is going to be the best, and I was all on board. But I do think the re-signing of Fournette probably puts an end to that talk. But I would be down for sure.
The thing at running back is it's going to be tough next year because you'll be, Fournette will probably be gone for sure. Ronald Jones will be a free agent looking for money. Gio Bernard signed a 1-year deal. So next thing you could be looking at a running back room just with Keyshawn Vaughn. I'm not advocating nor endorsing drafting a running back, but I guess you can never have too many, especially in the Buccaneers situation with a lot of them perhaps leaving. And ETN, he is a good playmaker. But I know Stunna was a big advocate on Puka Williams later in the draft back in the day. Yeah, Hurricane 32 is more like a second, but it's still a first round technically. 32 is still grouped in that first round. Lamar Jackson was 32nd, but I think he'd be proud to say he was a first round pick. Just saying. For the Colts, though, I forgot we'd sneak in a Colts talk here. I think they might go edge rusher. I think they need to go edge rusher. They didn't really address their edge spots too much this offseason. Justin Houston's gone. Other than that, they might be guys. I don't know if you know, but Colts might be in the contest in the hunt for an edge rusher alongside the Bucs. So that's just another example of a team out there who may be in the water for a guy like a Phillips or a guy like a Oweh or someone.
I got him taking Rousseau. Is that how you say his name for Miami? I think they either take him or Jenkins because I think their left tackle retired or their right tackle. So to me,
Costanzo, their left tackle did retire, Anthony Costanzo.
So I got him taking the dude from where's he from? Trevin Jenkins, either him or the pass rusher from Miami. I'd say that's Colts' two biggest weaknesses.
Yeah, we could see 2 Miami pass rushers go top 15, top 10 perhaps. That would be interesting. But I think left tackle would be a good one for the Colts as well. They're, missing it after Costanzo retired. So we'll see what happens there. Guys, it's been a hell of a night. We had a lot of great talk, a lot of great Bucs talk, some sad but good closure with Geno Hayes, and then we had brief Colts talk as well. We had some great chatters such as Hurricane Jason, such as Joseph, Robert Jonas, and the rest of you guys. We do appreciate all the love, all the support. Be on the lookout for more giveaways at our Twitter Buccateers. Going to be giving away a shirt as soon as this episode releases tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. Get your NFL draft shirts. All availabilities this weekend. There's going to be a lot of contests going. So another great night with the crew, talking some NFL draft, talking a lot of great football with the Buccateers. On behalf of Cody G, A-Cat, Stun Up, Bucko, the Bruce, I am Tampa Tones. It's been a hell of a night. We'll see you guys Saturday. I'll at least be back Saturday with the live draft recap. We'll see you guys then. Until next time, go Bucs.